she demanded. Pay for my girl's trip or we're done. I wired the money, then blocked her and took her spot with my new flame. Her stranded calls from the airport were hilarious. I should have realized something was fundamentally wrong when Whitney started treating our Sunday brunch routine like a business meeting instead of quality time together. I'm Marcus, 34, and I run my own tax preparation firm here in Minneapolis while teaching night classes at the local business school. Nothing flashy, but it's steady work that I genuinely enjoy, especially helping young entrepreneurs understand financial planning. Whitney had been living in my renovated warehouse loft for 10 months after her previous roommate situation fell through, which I later learned meant she'd stopped paying her share of expenses and got kicked out. She worked as a brand ambassador for some luxury skincare company, posting Instagram stories about products that cost more than most people's grocery budgets. That particular Sunday morning, she was scrolling through her phone with unusual intensity, occasionally showing me photos of exotic locations and making little humming sounds that I'd learned meant she was calculating something expensive. So my Northwestern sisters are doing this incredible wellness retreat next month, she announced, not looking up from her screen. 7 days in Costa Rica at this boutique eco-resort with private yoga sessions, guided meditation workshops, and professional photography for our lifestyle brands. I nodded, cutting into my Eggs Benedict while mentally running through my quarterly projections. Sounds like a nice break. You've been working pretty hard on those product launches. She finally looked up, and something in her expression made me pause mid-bite. The thing is, it's $4,200 and I really need to be there for my brand positioning. I set down my fork, doing quick math. That's steep, but if it's important for your career, maybe you could use some of those commission checks you mentioned? Or work out a payment plan. Whitney's entire demeanor shifted like someone had flipped a switch. Marcus, I need you to pay for this trip. As proof that you're committed to our relationship and my personal growth. The casual way she said it made me blink twice. Proof of commitment? All my friends' partners finance these experiences without making it weird about money. Sarah's boyfriend just bought her a week in Tulum, and Kimberly's fiancé covered her entire Bali retreat series. She leaned forward, her voice taking on that edge I'd started hearing more often. If you refuse, it shows me you don't prioritize our shared future or believe in investing in my success. I stared at her for what felt like an eternity, watching her expectant expression, realizing this wasn't a request, it was an ultimatum disguised as a relationship test. I studied Whitney's face for exactly 45 seconds, watching her confidence build as she interpreted my silence as consideration rather than disbelief. Without breaking eye contact, I pulled out my phone and opened my mobile banking app, the familiar interface loading with my business and personal accounts displayed in neat rows. You want proof of commitment? I asked, my voice perfectly calm as I navigated to the transfer screen. Absolutely. This retreat is crucial for my brand development, and honestly, it's not that much money for someone in your position. Whitney leaned forward slightly, monitoring my phone screen as I selected her checking account from my saved contacts, something I'd set up months ago when she claimed her direct deposit was delayed and needed grocery money. I typed in exactly $4,200, double-checked the recipient information, and hit transfer while she watched approvingly. Perfect, I said, watching the confirmation screen appear. Your retreat is fully funded. Her smile was radiant, triumphant, like she just won some complex negotiation. Thank you, baby. This is exactly what I needed to see from you. While she was still staring at her phone, waiting for the deposit notification, I calmly navigated to my settings and began blocking her number. Then Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, every messaging platform we'd ever used. The whole process took maybe 90 seconds while she was distracted by refreshing her banking app. Marcus, what are you doing? Whitney's voice changed completely when she glanced up and saw me methodically working through my contact list. Making sure you have everything you need for your trip, I replied, placing my phone face down on the table and signaling our server for the check. What does that mean? What's wrong with you? The panic in her voice was immediate and sharp. Nothing's wrong. You got your money, I got my answer. I pulled out my wallet and placed $40 on the table, enough to cover our meal and a decent tip. Ultimatums disguised as relationship tests tell me everything I need to know about compatibility. Whitney's face went through this fascinating progression: confusion, disbelief, then raw panic as the implications hit her. This isn't an ultimatum. It's just communication. Partners should want to invest in each other's growth. Partners don't threaten breakups to extract money, I said, standing up and putting on my jacket. Someone who sees my financial success as an ATM isn't someone I want building a future with. She started talking faster, her voice getting higher. Marcus, sit down. You're being completely irrational. I can transfer the money back right now if you're going to be weird about it. But I was already walking toward the exit, leaving her at the table with her phone showing multiple message failed to deliver notifications as she frantically tried to reach me through every platform I'd just blocked. For days after completely eliminating Whitney from my life, I attended a professional networking event for small business owners at the Minneapolis Convention Center, something I'd committed to months earlier but honestly wasn't feeling particularly social about. I was nursing a coffee and half listening to a presentation about sustainable business practices when this woman next to me started asking genuinely insightful questions about tax implications for eco-friendly equipment purchases. Adrian turned out to be 29, a licensed veterinarian who operated a mobile pet clinic serving rural communities outside Minneapolis, and she had this refreshing way of discussing business challenges without any of the social media posturing I'd grown tired of. Our initial coffee meeting after the event somehow evolved into an 8-hour conversation that moved from the convention center cafe to a quiet restaurant, then to a late-night diner, covering everything from sustainable business models to ethical animal care and our mutual passion for financial literacy education. My ex-boyfriend couldn't understand why I spent weekends doing free vaccine clinics in underserved areas, Adrian mentioned around hour 5, stirring her third cup of coffee. He kept insisting I abandon my impractical animal charity work to help him promote his cryptocurrency investment schemes to my clients. I found myself laughing, not at her situation but at the parallel. My recent ex saw my accounting firm as her personal funding source rather than appreciating that I actually enjoy helping people understand financial planning. Adrian had this way of listening that felt completely different from Whitney's performative attention. She asked follow-up questions about my teaching work, seemed genuinely interested in my quarterly tax workshops for entrepreneurs, and shared stories about helping rural veterinarians set up sustainable practice models. I've actually been researching veterinary conservation programs in Central America, she mentioned as we walked to our cars around midnight. There's this incredible opportunity to work with wildlife rehabilitation centers in Costa Rica, but the educational program costs are pretty steep for someone running a mobile clinic. Without really thinking about it, I heard myself saying, I've got money allocated for international travel this month. We should explore Costa Rica together. Adrian stopped walking and stared at me. Marcus, we literally just met 8 hours ago. I can't let you pay for my professional development. Supporting someone's legitimate career growth aligns with my values, I explained, thinking about the irony of funding actual education versus Instagram content creation. Besides, I'd rather travel with someone who appreciates meaningful experiences than someone who sees trips as social media opportunities. She was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. Okay, but I'm covering all the research costs, planning, and coordination. If we're doing this, we're doing it as actual partners. Tuesday afternoon, Adrian and I arrived at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport for our flight to San Jose, both of us genuinely excited about the conservation programs we'd researched and the wildlife rehabilitation centers she'd connected with through her veterinary networks. We were proceeding through security when I heard this familiar voice getting progressively louder near the international gates, that particular tone Whitney used when she wasn't getting her way and expected everyone within earshot to fix her problems immediately. I looked over and there she was, standing with 4 other women in coordinated athleisure outfits that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, all of them surrounding an increasingly overwhelmed airline representative who was clearly delivering bad news about their travel arrangements. What do you mean canceled? Whitney's voice carried across the entire gate area. We have non-refundable reservations at an exclusive eco-resort. This is completely unacceptable. Adrian followed my gaze and immediately understood the situation when she observed Whitney's increasingly dramatic gestures and entitled demands toward the airline staff. "That's her, isn't it?" she asked quietly. "The one who demanded you fund her wellness retreat." I nodded, recognizing Whitney's sorority sisters from countless Instagram posts I'd been subjected to, all equipped with matching luggage sets and ring lights for content creation, clearly prepared for a week of lifestyle photography rather than actual wellness activities. The airline representative was explaining something about weather delays in Houston affecting their connecting flight, which would push their arrival to Thursday and eliminate 2 crucial days from their week-long retreat. I walked over to the gate counter and politely requested an upgrade to business class for Adrian and me, positioning us directly in Whitney's sightline during the boarding process. When our zone was called and we walked past the still arguing group, Whitney's expression went through this incredible transformation, from travel frustration to complete shock to something that looked like she'd been physically slapped. "Marcus." Her voice cracked slightly as she took in Adrian beside me, clearly accomplished and confident, someone who was excited about educational opportunities rather than social media content. "Oh my God, you're actually here. With her." Adrian squeezed my hand and smiled politely. "Have a good trip, Whitney. I hope your retreat works out despite the delays." The casual confidence in Adrian's voice, combined with our business class boarding passes and the obvious fact that we were heading to the same destination Whitney had demanded I fund, created this moment of perfect clarity about what real partnership looked like versus financial exploitation disguised as relationship goals. From our upgraded seats during takeoff, Adrian and I watched through the terminal windows as Whitney's group got rebooked on Thursday's flight, effectively eliminating 2 crucial days from their week-long retreat and creating expensive accommodation complications that their tight budget clearly couldn't handle. I'd temporarily unblocked my phone to coordinate some client calls, and within minutes of reaching cruising altitude, it started buzzing with calls from unknown numbers as Whitney apparently borrowed devices from fellow travelers, gate agents, and anyone else willing to help her reach me. Adrian found the escalating desperation absolutely hilarious as I played the voicemails on speaker while we enjoyed our premium meal service. "Marcus, this is absolutely unhinged." Whitney's voice was shrill and panicked in the first message. "How dare you steal my vacation with some random veterinarian? Call me immediately." The second voicemail revealed more of her mental state. "I know you can hear these messages, and this is completely psychotic behavior. You're deliberately sabotaging my retreat because you can't handle that I needed to test our relationship compatibility." By the third message, her tone had shifted to something approaching bargaining. "Okay, maybe I could have communicated better about the trip funding, but this cosmic intervention with our flight delay clearly means we're supposed to work things out. The universe is giving us a sign." But the fourth voicemail exposed Whitney's actual financial reality and the desperation behind her initial demand. "Marcus, our backup reservations are completely booked, and my credit cards are maxed from last month's influencer conference expenses. You have to wire emergency funds for accommodation. We're literally stranded with nowhere to stay, and my brand partnerships depend on this content creation." Adrian was laughing so hard she nearly choked on her wine. "She actually thinks you're obligated to solve her travel disasters after she demanded money and threatened to break up with you?" The final voicemail came through as we were descending into San Jose, Whitney's voice now completely broken. "Fine, ignore me like a coward, but you'll never find someone who understands your success like I do. This Adrian person will never appreciate your potential the way I did. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." I deleted all the messages and put my phone on airplane mode, looking at Adrienne's amused expression as she shook her head. The irony is incredible. Someone who saw you as a walking ATM claiming she appreciated your potential. Adrian and I spent 6 absolutely transformative days exploring Costa Rica's conservation programs while Whitney's group struggled through their abbreviated, financially strained weekend experience that bore no resemblance to the luxury wellness retreat she demanded I fund. Adrienne's veterinary expertise elevated every single excursion into meaningful professional development. She collaborated with local wildlife rehabilitation centers, documented exotic animal treatment protocols, established international partnerships for her mobile clinic expansion, and even arranged for me to understand the business side of conservation funding through meetings with program administrators. I discovered what authentic travel partnership actually felt like for the first time in years. Instead of staging elaborate social media productions and complaining about authentic cultural experiences being too rustic for proper photography, Adrian approached each opportunity with genuine scientific curiosity and professional methodology. Our resort manager, a friendly guy named Carlos, mentioned during our third day that they'd recently hosted a group of demanding American influencers who created multiple service complaints about Wi-Fi quality for streaming and demanded refunds for activities that didn't photograph well enough for their social media standards. He clearly was referencing Whitney's group without naming them directly, and Adrian and I exchanged knowing looks about the contrast between seeking genuine experiences versus content creation opportunities. My phone, which I'd started checking again for business purposes, received this desperate message from Whitney's friend Kimberly. "Whitney completely lost it when she saw your Instagram stories with the veterinarian at the animal sanctuary. She spent $300 on international data trying to monitor your activities through mutual friends' accounts, then had a complete breakdown realizing Adrian is accomplished and genuinely interested in meaningful work rather than social media validation." The message continued. "She's been crying in her hotel room instead of participating in the wellness activities she insisted were crucial for her brand development. The other girls are furious because she's ruining the entire retreat with her obsession over your new relationship." What struck me most was how naturally Adrian and I worked together. She handled all the research and coordination she'd promised. I managed logistics and funding without any expectation of gratitude, and we both contributed our professional expertise to make the experience valuable for everyone we encountered. When local veterinarians asked about sustainable business practices for rural clinics, I found myself giving impromptu workshops while Adrian translated veterinary concepts into practical applications, creating this organic collaboration that felt effortless and productive rather than transactional. Returning to Minneapolis the following Tuesday, I discovered 23 voicemails documenting Whitney's complete retreat disaster in excruciating detail, each message more desperate and self-aware than the last. Her group's accommodation had been downgraded due to their late arrival and budget constraints, 3 friends departed early after financial disputes over unexpected expenses, and Whitney spent most of Sunday researching my new relationship through social media instead of participating in the wellness activities she'd claimed were essential for her personal growth and brand development. Her final message, recorded from the San Jose airport while waiting for their delayed return flight, revealed total desperation mixed with genuine self-awareness. "Marcus, I completely destroyed the most stable, supportive relationship I've ever experienced because of greed and manipulation disguised as relationship testing. You were absolutely right about everything. I treated your financial success as an entitlement rather than appreciating your dedication, work ethic, and genuine generosity." The message continued with painful honesty. "Adrian clearly values substance over superficial displays, and I hate that losing you taught me what authentic partnership actually means. I spent this entire trip obsessing over your Instagram stories instead of enjoying experiences I demanded you fund, and now I understand why you walked away without looking back." Meanwhile, Adrian seamlessly integrated into my professional and personal world in ways that felt completely natural. She provided veterinary expertise for several of my clients who owned businesses involving animals, collaborated with me on developing a financial literacy program specifically designed for veterinary students, and approached our relationship as an equal partnership where both people contributed their skills and resources rather than one person funding the other's lifestyle. 6 months later, I learned through mutual acquaintances that Whitney had abandoned her brand ambassador position to pursue full-time influencer status, moved back in with her parents after maxing out multiple credit cards trying to maintain her expensive lifestyle, and frequently posted vague motivational content about recognizing genuine love before it's too late, while geotagging locations from our former relationship. The contrast became even more apparent when Adrian and I celebrated our engagement 14 months later. Our wedding guests consistently commented on my visible happiness and relaxed demeanor, noting it was a dramatic change from the obvious stress and financial anxiety I displayed during what they diplomatically called the Whitney period. Adrian and I built something real together. A partnership where we both contributed professionally, financially, and emotionally without keeping score or using ultimatums to test commitment. She never demanded proof of my feelings through expensive purchases, and I never felt like an ATM being drained by someone who confused entitlement with relationship goals.